We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott?
Here.
Mr. Bratton?
Present.
Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Mellis?
Present.
Mrs. Parker?
Will you join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 4.
Okay. Just one thing I want to take a minute here. This is the first time we've had the board together, but the district's had a difficult couple of weeks between school safety things across the nation. We followed that up with a very traumatic event to our community. And late last week, it was difficult for us and our entire community, but as you may be aware, we've experienced the death of a student, sophomore Leah Jackson, which has affected us all deeply. Leah was a kind and caring student. She was involved in a lot of clubs at school and also participated as a member of the varsity cheerleading squad. She will certainly be missed. There was another student that was injured in the accident. She is expected to make full recovery, but our thoughts and prayers are with the families that have been impacted by this tragic event. And at this time, I would like the board and the guests to join us in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay. Mark, that's you.
Okay, number 5, approval of agenda. We have a few changes. We go to page 2, C3. Just need to cross out A, 1 day for Stephanie Dinsmore. So B becomes A and C becomes B.
So the dates.
Oh, the dates, yes, the date is 22/23 for Amy Randall in B. On the next page, page 3, you need to cross out number 4. That's not needed. So number 5 becomes 4. Now I cross out, I can't read. Then next is 5 and 6. 7 would be active supplemental contract. Number 8, approve the following supplemental contracts. Number 9, follow athletic department volunteers. And 10, following volunteers for 2017-2018 school year. And then there's a vote. I believe that was the last thing.
Is everybody good with those amendments? Okay.
Okay. If there's no questions, then is there any discussion? Questions? Could we have a roll call, please? Or could we have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Number 6, approve the minutes from the following meeting, February 12th regular meeting and February 21st, 2018 planning meeting. There's only one voting line, so I guess
There was just one minor correction on the planning meeting, Travis. The vision statement, instead of education, it should be educational, the last line on the minutes.
Any other changes? Discussion. Is there a motion? Second, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
And Mr. Mellis?
Yes. Number 7 is public participation, high school updates.
Okay.
Which the place is teeming with high school staff right now.
First and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for your support. I know it's been a rough few weeks for us, as Mr. Hahn alluded to. But we've also had some positives as well, with some success of our sports teams and student success. But during these times, and we talk about it all the time, the BC experience and what it's like to be a part of this community and school district, it really shows in these times of joy as well as sadness. And I want to thank all of you for your support during that time. I especially want to thank Mr. Hahn during over the past couple of weeks. I know it's been tough on everybody, but wanted to thank him for that as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for your support with that. Moving on, I did want to share a couple things before I hand this off to Mr. Carter, our science teacher, to share some of the technology that we have in the building. First and foremost, I believe in your packets that was provided by Ms. Luckhoff, some programming that we've provided to our students over the past couple weeks. On March 1st, our guidance department, Mr. Gulke, provided a junior student parent information night to help prepare our students for their senior year. And with that, we had members of the community come in, one from Job and Family Services. We had another from Ohio University Lancaster, as well as the military. And they just shared with us some of the college and career options that are out there for our students. So pretty impressive night. We had over 80 students and parents attend. We're very happy with that, and hopefully we can continue with that growth and continue to pull more people to that as well. So very successful night there. Another night, which is coming up, that I wanted to share with everybody will be this Wednesday, March 14th at Bloom Carroll High School. It's the first ever High School 101. It's an 8th grade orientation for incoming 9th graders. And we're simply going to share with those parents and students what it's like to be a high school student, what they're going to see when they come to the high school. We're going to talk about some of the course options, some of the state requirements. We're going to talk about the extracurricular opportunities that they have, the career tech services. They'll be there to share some information. We're going to talk about advanced placement and College Credit Plus as well. So we're looking forward to a great turnout. And, we talk about college and career readiness all the time for our students, and our guidance staff is doing a tremendous job with that, with these two programs that they're providing to our students and parents. Lastly, I did provide everybody a handout. We talk about, once again, college and career readiness. We're pretty fortunate. Stephanie Densmore, our media center specialist, was awarded a couple grants, one from South Central Power, the other from Walmart, to update the media center and create a more flexible learning environment, collaborative learning environment for our students. And as you can see by the pictures in the handout there, she did a tremendous job of that, and we want to thank, again, South Central Power and Walmart for their support with that, with providing us the opportunity to present the best possible learning environment for our students. And I think Stephanie did a tremendous job with that. And we welcome you and invite you to come visit the Media Center and check it out if you haven't done so.
Does that include, since you mentioned that, does that include the meeting we went to Wednesday? Are these awards something to do with that, or was that something additional?
This is, I believe, yes.
Yes. Okay.
This is the awards that she received for that. So pretty great opportunity right there for not only her, but again, for our students in providing them the best possible learning environment. Now moving forward, talking about college and career readiness again, Mr. Carter is going to show and display some of the pieces and technology that we have at the high school, and just not for the science department, but for all departments. And again, we thank you for your support on and with that technology, and hope we can continue to grow the technology at Bloom Carroll High School. So, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. I also want to echo his sentiments at the very beginning. Mr. Hahn, you did an amazing job of keeping it professional. Sorry. Having family here and being involved in this community for so long, what we went through the last couple weeks. Thank you, board, for your support, and I appreciate how everything was handled, because that was a tough time for a lot of students and a lot of us. Sorry.
Thank you, but we got an amazing staff throughout the district, and all I did was pull a team together, and they went out and did it. But I was very proud of everybody at the high school, middle school, elementary. So.
No, it's a big team effort, but as the bleeding head, what was said across the communication was wow. That was what we needed to hear, how we needed to hear it, and at least from my perspective. So
keeping channel forward from some of the people.
Well, yeah, that's another issue. Yeah. So when you guys were young, hopefully most of you guys remember the Viewmaster
I'm thinking.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I had one of those.
They've got one, yeah, they've all got it. Now, these do not have straps, and they did that on purpose because, if we put straps on you, then you start running around and then we can't get it off and you fall. So, yeah, well, there is a little clicker up there, but we don't use it for what we'll be doing today.
But not the field trips that we took.
Yeah, this is not.
Unless you were charging with the basketball.
But imagine the ability now that what I'm going to be able to show you real quick, because I don't want to take a lot of time. What I'm going to show you real quick is some of the stuff we can do in class. Is every student would have that in a class. It is on its own router, so we could take it from room to room, and it would still be connected. And what I want you to do first is you can actually put up to your eyes. If you have glasses, it may be a little difficult. There is a little knob at the top. It's a little rolling, a little red. No, I'm sorry, the black one. Yeah, the black one. You can go that back and forth. That is going to allow it to move back and forth. So if you didn't have glasses or you do have glasses on, you can see a little better. I'm going to put real quick. I'm going to go ahead and turn this first one on. We're going to head to the moon. This is one of Mrs. Snyder's that she really likes. Now, if you notice, if you look around, you can see, move your whole body. Yep, move your whole body. You can see around right now. You should be seeing, and I'm actually seeing where you guys are looking, which is kind of fun.
Look back to your left.
So you should see the Earth.
There's Earth. Earth is way back here, guys. Look way behind you.
Now, I will tell you guys, before you start getting up and moving, just be careful. If you guys are car sick at any point, if you don't like roller coasters, don't stand up too much because it will start to affect you. If you do, just close your eyes, take it off for a second, you'll be okay. But this is what I can do in class is I have a little small tablet here that I will be able to take you guys and actually show you where to look. This first one, it just talks about the blue dot, and it gives us some questions, and we can write down our own questions. But for example, I'm going to send you the moon real quick. Now, everybody should have gone to the moon right there, point, right?
I see a pointer pointing to the left.
There it is, so go to the left, look to the left. And it will take you to where the moon is located, and you'll see like a circle around it. And so then I can talk about the moon, if I want to, in this case, and discuss it, even ask questions while you're looking at it. I can go to, let's go to the Milky Way now. So you may see some other ones. And this is great in class, you can see everybody just kind of turn around and look around. And then we can talk about the Milky Way, what it is. So instead of just putting up a slide on the screen or a picture in a book, we can actually let the kids look around and be active a little bit. And then I can talk about, if you look around, you can see band of dots and talk about these are stars. This is part of the Milky Way. I'm going to take you to another one. We're going to head to the moon a little bit. Whoa. Does that get you a little thick there?
Who's that guy waving?
You still up there?
Neil.
So I can move, and I can, like I said, I can see exactly where you're looking at, but I can point to different areas on there. You guys can see it. It's the seas on the moon and tell you what they're about. I can point you to a crater. I can actually point you to a specific crater, the Tycho crater, and discuss that.
The Tycho overall?
Yeah, that's moon stuff. I don't even know.
Oh.
This is Mrs. Snyder. I'm life science.
Okay, that's right.
And then we can even go into, as we start to do that, I can move on to talk about some explorers. And so now you can look at some of the different history pictures of like timeline and things. And you can look all around the room. It is everywhere. If you look up or you look down, you'll see the moon below you. You'll see NASA and the timeline above you. So that's some stuff if you're in that one. I'm going to take you to another one that's we're going to leave that one real quick, and I'm going to take you to let's go to the Louvre real quick.
There you go.
I'll take you to. We'll go to Paris. We'll just go to Paris in general.
I've been there.
Been there, me too. So now you're in Paris. You can look around. We are on. Now be careful when you look down because you're actually. Yeah, pretty high. But you can look around, and if you look at different places, I can take you to, for example, let's go to Notre Dame. Right there. Follow that, and you can see this, and then the French teacher can talk about that and talk about the different types of what happens in there, but also the architecture of it. And you can see where it's located, how big it is, in relation to everything else. Go another one. So now you're on top of, I think, one of the gardens at the Louvre.
Look straight.
Sorry. Did you guys look straight to
I just pulled
Yeah.
my feet back.
Don't get busy.
It does, there's something you do on the roller coaster, it does make you get sick.
What program is this?
This is Google Expeditions, and it comes with this.
15.
Now, there's actually some out that at some point we could get, but they actually have, like for this book, you could get or history, they would actually have it set up to the book, so when you talk about where they're going, in that book, it'll take you there.
And if you look to your right further up, it's Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, that's.
Yes, we can go to, I'll send you right there, I'll send you to the arrows to say, we're gonna see the Arc de Triomphe. There's the Louvre right there. So, that is some, yeah. And it is, the kids love it, but there's a limit as to how much I can use this in a period, because it's like microscopes. I can do microscopes for a period, but you gotta give them breaks because it boggles their eyes. This is the same way, because they'll have to take a break, take a step back, and I've had some of them get up, but they tend to like the wheelie chair that I've got. Well, I did it in partners. You had one person look, the other person just kind of be there to stabilize them, because they'll start looking around and they don't get that, it'll start to fall. So it's something you gotta be careful of, but they've done a great job with it, they like it. Just to save some time, because I don't want to go any further, but hopefully you guys see that. There's other stuff in there, and this would be me showing you guys with the actual Magellans. So the Magellans in there are basically iPods. And so we just charge them. I've got them in those little things in the back, and we can download apps. So you've probably done some VR apps. So there's a lot of good cell ones. I've got one on here that's the brain. It takes them into the brain, and they see the neurons, they see the synapses, they see, it's a computer-generated version of it, but right now it's as best as we got. I just expect this to go in the future to be huge. Anatomy and physiology. There's a video that we can watch that takes you into the body and follows you through the bloodstream, so you can see the valves. Like, we just got done talking about how these valves work and how they stop the blood from going backwards. Well, it's hard to show them on a piece of paper, but if I can take them in there and watch them, let them go through it, and they see this tricuspid open and close, then it really opens their mind as to how it works. So there's a lot of good stuff we can do with it. It's time, it's money, and it's hoping that in the future that we'll get a little bit less cheesy stuff, because the free stuff's all cheesy. I mean, it's computer generated, and it's not bad, but I really fully expect the next 5 to 10 years this is going to blow up big.
Are you saying Pong was cheesy when it first came out?
I like Pong, that was good. Give me the green screen, I'm good.
Do you anticipate this being like real time, like a feed directly from brain?
That, I don't know. That scares me.
I mean, seriously, because that's the way,
Yes. I mean, you've got to almost think that way in the future, because progress is going to take us there. It scares me to that, but yes. And you can see with where things are going now, there is, on some of the ones, we've got this group, or this one, but if you go to some of the other VR ones that have the hand motions on your hands, where you can actually move stuff, grab stuff, that's going to be the future of education too. So the fact that we're on board with this early on is good. We need to use it more, and this is open for, obviously you got to be careful with even the small kids, but it's great for anything when it comes to taking them on field trips. You don't get the hands-on, like there's a one in here that goes to the Louvre, and you can actually see actually no, it was Versailles, and you can see the different images every room, and I loved it, because it was fun going back there. Because I've been there once, and I was like...
Is this like through the technology department? So like
We actually I had a $1,000 grant from chemistry from a college student who got a grant and gave it to the school for us, and then the rest of it was, it's here and there. So...
you're right, this would be fun to show.
It is. We've got one now, or two. We've got the second one in the, second one in the middle school. So they've been using it too. And we're going back and forth. Robin and I are working with the 3D printers.
30 of these.
Yes, I've got a set of 30 that we use. And right now there's about 3 teachers that are really utilizing it a little bit. We're trying to keep up with it, because it's a whole nother set of trying to figure out what to do and trying to make lesson plans with it.
This is 21st century learning. This is different than the way we learn.
Yeah.
It makes things so much more real. I mean, kids can read about it in a textbook, they can hear lecture about it, but when they actually, you can't take 150 or 300 kids at one time to the Louvre, but when you can do that and give them a visual, it just draws those connections, and it's amazing what you guys have certainly jumped on board, but for a little rural district, we're making some good progress and headed in the right direction, I think. But Mr. Carter, I know the science department has really jumped on this, and I think it's fascinating.
Are they using that for all grade levels in science?
They're using it really honors bio, quite a bit AP
Yeah.
bio.
Yeah, anatomy, physiology.
Yeah, anatomy, that's the big one, is when you get these into the cell, or into the lung, or into the heart, and just not talk about valves and chambers of a heart, but
Show
walk
'em.
it through it. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna comprehend that so much better.
Oh, yeah. And I will tell you, like, my son has been coming over after school, and I had these out last week, and he had some friends because of the play. They immediately went straight to it because they knew what it was and just got on there. It's just natural for them.
Yeah.
And they got in one of it's in cell is what it's called, but it gets you into a cell. It has games that they play, but they have to go through it and they answer questions. So the hope is that on this in the future is we can have our own questions. We can actually make our own. If we want to make one of these, we can make one. The other thing that this was for the not just science or math or history, there is one that's called U Visit that is for seniors to go on a college visit on campus. They have people who've taken pictures and video while they're walking through campus. So they can see the campus before they actually get to the campus and go into the different buildings and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff out there. This summer I hope to really kind of sit down and delve a little bit more into it to figure out what we can use it for.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from a standpoint of, students that are struggling and don't have a great attention span.
Right.
It's an interactive world these days. If you can actually get them more engaged and, from a test score perspective, I think that would be huge.
Just another way to connect.
Yeah.
Right. One more tool that we can use that, like I said, this isn't an all-day thing because this would drive your eyes crazy,
Right.
even as kids. But it's something to get their attention. It's a good starter, and then we go into, okay, what did we just see?
Yeah.
And there is, I didn't go into a lot of questions, but on the one with the expedition, there are questions you can make. I had one that takes my ecology class to a recycle plant, so they can see exactly what happens with the whole process of taking trash and making it into recycle. And I asked questions, and we had a quiz afterwards. So if you use it, we can, there's a lot of stuff we can do with it. So thank you for supporting us with this, because it's going to be very helpful, I think, in the future.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Real quick, in regards to the presentation here, I just want to say that, obviously, the strength of our district are the people and the students and the parents and our staff members, not our buildings. We know that. But there's nothing more important than the people and the students and our teachers. And I feel great about, the high school staff, all of our building staffs, but Mr. Conrad has, I pushed things a little bit and he's taken it the next step, I think, and I just want to kind of acknowledge the progress that he's made in the building. He knows that he probably has that room for at least a minimum of 5 to 7 years in a perfect world if we get everything to work out. And if you walk into the high school, he wasn't scared to make some changes that needed to be made, and it's more inviting, it's more welcoming, it's more student-centered, more staff-centered, but the students come first with this media center. He certainly pushed Stephanie Dinsmore to go ahead and get these grants and improve the learning environment. It almost feels like a coffee shop, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, but that's what kids want in terms of feeling comfortable in their learning. And I do encourage you to get into that building and take a look at the media center, because it's a neat learning environment. But the entranceway in the gym area, he's really cleaned it up, kind of brightened it up, and made some changes that needed to be made. But he's got a great staff to work with. So thank you, Nate, and the high school staff.
I would the biggest problem was who we followed.
It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. I tiptoed around it, did a few things. Hey, it's always been that way.
It was a good answer.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
All right, 8, treasurer's recommendations and reports.
Thank you. Item 8A is approve the February financial statements. Total expense for the month, $8,796,167.30, including almost $6.8 million in the South Central Ohio Insurance Consortium expenses. The biggest thing with February, as we look at both revenues and expenses on the executive summary, is we begin to collect our first half 2018. It's actually second half of the fiscal year, because these will be the final tax collections for the fiscal year, but we start to get advances on real estate taxes that are paid, and also public utility taxes, which are mainly the pipeline and the electrical. inventory that those taxes are paid upon. So true comparisons will not be able to be made until we actually receive the final settlement, which we've actually already received, but until we reconcile March, and we'll be able to let the board know and the community know how our taxes change throughout the year. In terms of expenses, we're getting to that point, believe it or not, as we get toward the end of the school year, that we're going to begin to cut off purchase orders in terms of those areas like classroom supplies and capital projects. Obviously, we've still got utilities and those things that will continue, but in terms of the purchase orders, we're going to begin to cut those off to try to remain as close as we can to the appropriations. Current carryover, as again, we collect the taxes for the second half of the fiscal year, is almost $4.8 million as we conclude February. Any questions on the February financial statements or the checks that were written during the month?
Does our CPA got any questions on the board? Thought I might as well ask. I went to my usual place of looking and went, okay. Seeing no questions, then is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Thank you. Item B, asking for approval to add the following appropriation for the 17-18 fiscal year. It's Title 4A Student Support, Fund Number 599, and the amount of the grant is $10,000. As with all leading funds with the 500, this is a federal grant. It was added midway through the year. 15% of this grant must be spent in the classroom, kind of a timely discussion with blended learning. The remaining 8,500, one of the allowable expenditures is student safety, both physical well-being and or mental well-being. So certainly that's timely with being able to offset a little bit of the resource officer that I know that the board was very much behind us adding here for the rest of the fiscal year. So in order to make legal expenditures from any fund, it has to have an appropriation in place. So we're asking for approval tonight.
Are you going to be getting into safety with the superintendent report?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will ask this question then. Okay, seeing no questions, or hearing no questions, make a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
And Mr. Mellis?
Yes. Number 9, we have old business, approve the following policies for a second reading. Business Advisory Council, Emergency Management and Safety Plans, Emergency Management and Safety Plans again, drug testing for district personnel required to hold a commercial driver's license, admission of homeless students, and student absences and excuses. Now, on number 5, one of the questions I asked, and I think Ron too, was how can you identify those when you may not have the information?
It's not always easy. Obviously, we do have a liaison for the district, that is our special education director, Kathy Reisman. She works directly with families that are in difficult situations. Maybe a family, for example, is coming to us and they are living with somebody temporarily. They have the option to stay at their home district, or they could enroll in our district as well if they're homeless and just living with somebody temporarily. Sometimes when mail's been returned, or maybe a student has communicated something privately with a teacher or another staff member, we then get that information and Kathy reaches out to the family. Obviously, if they are living in a hotel, a motel, a shelter, we still do provide transportation, and that student can remain in our district until they decide or have some other means in a permanent residence. So it does happen from time to time, even in Boone Carroll. I don't see it as much here as I have in other places, but we do from time to time have students that are displaced. We had a student a family that their home suffered a fire, and they were displaced last school year, and we have to make sure that we're reaching out, providing transportation to those families. So things like that happen from time to time. That's how we find out.
Okay, any questions about the policy?
The only thing I would add on that, Mark, is I've got a meeting in April, and the date hasn't been established yet in regards to the Business Advisory Council for the ESC. We're going to have quarterly meetings to set guidelines and parameters around that for the ESC. Okay. So when I have that person, I'll update you guys on when it will be.
Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, could I have a motion to approve? I'll make that motion since I'm on the committee.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes. And number 10 is someone else's turn, superintendent's recommendations and reports.
Just a couple things, want to go in here too. Again, I just have been very impressed with our traumatic event response team. We have a crisis response plan for our district, and I think our team of administrators, teachers, counselors, local clergy, psychologists, therapists, other community agencies really stepped up to help us out. Had a lot of conversations with the families that have been impacted by this firsthand, and they were very appreciative to our district and to the entire traumatic event response team. We obviously came together and made sure that the families had the support that they needed. So just again wanted to kind of give you an update on that. We will continue to provide support with our counselors as needed for any student that needs support to get through this difficult time. There's never a good answer, but sometimes just time and comfort, support takes care of that. So it'll be a while for this close group of friends of the student that passed, but just wanted to update you that I thought it was handled well with our team. There are some safety updates. I've tried to communicate as much as I possibly can and still respect that people have children and things in the evening. They don't want to be bombarded daily with phone calls and even maybe as much as what I have, but I know it's been on the mind of parents and staff members and our entire nation, the issues of school safety, and for good reason, obviously. And it doesn't surprise me that school safety is starting to turn political. I just want to point out that, you know, it's my belief, and if the board wants me to change my belief, I can do that. I work for the board. But it's not that our position should be to support political agendas of any political party or group or action committee, but we are to teach students to think about issues in the right setting and in the right place. And we are not to really tell students how they should think about issues, but teach them to think and analyze and get information and make their own decisions. We are not here to brainwash children. I don't want anybody to ever think that, but we do encourage that analytical, that reflective thinking where people can form their own conclusions. Parents can tell their kids how to think and what to think. That's not our job. So this issue with school safety has started to turn nationally to focus on the Second Amendment and gun rights. And there are groups out there that are trying to push their political agendas through the power of the youth in schools with staff members too. And I just want to be clear that we don't take a position. We will deal with any situation appropriately, and there have been calls for a national walkout on March 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning for 17 minutes to honor the 17 students, not just to honor the 17 students in the Florida tragedy, but to specifically bring attention to gun laws. And one group that is doing this is called the Women's March Youth Empower. And I think it's important that the board knows, and I've met with our middle school and high school principals to have a plan in place in case we see something, but we haven't had any issues at this point at the high school that have been brought to the administration. The middle school did have a few students that came to the middle school administration about it. The principal did talk with the parents. One of the students involved in the parent was fine either way. But in terms of safety, I can't think of anything more unsafe than announcing the specific location, date, and time, and how long we're going to be outside, exposing students to particular elements. So it's not that we aren't prepared to deal with it. We will, but if we have to deal with the situation, we will try to make it respectful of the victims of the Florida incident and to draw safety, draw the attention to the importance of school safety in general, and not to take a position on the Second Amendment. So just wanted to let you know kind of what's going on there. We have a couple days. I'm sure it'll be on the news tonight and tomorrow. Things may pick up, but Mr. Conrad and Mr. Young know that I'm there, and we have sat down and discussed this. If there was a walkout, the administration would supervise the students. It's certainly not encouraged. Students would be unexcused if they walked out. Staff members, we have policy in place where staff members are expected to supervise and teach their students when students are assigned to them, not to abandon their classroom and leave students unsupervised. They would be held responsible for any student that was left unsupervised as a result of abandoning their responsibility and their position. So, yes, the First Amendment exists and people do have rights, but when it causes a disruption, there are limitations to how those protests can be done. So just know that this is something that we've looked into, we're prepared for. We believe our students will handle it well, whatever the route is, and so will our administration. So just want to let you know about that. In terms of back to the safety in particular, I've had a lot of positive responses from our community, people that have reached out to me, specifically not just about the lip service, but about the actions being taken. It's amazing what people worry about and what they don't worry about. But I think we're in a time of very high anxiety and emotions, and for good reason. And I do think that we're in a different world, and we want to be able to say we've done as much as we can with the resources we have. Yes, there has to be an investment in security. We currently are using a special duty sheriff's deputy 7 hours a day. They're in all of our buildings, back and forth, to have a presence on our campus. We also are getting, vendors have been to our campus to look at certain doors and access to our buildings and improving the door features and locks and access cards and camera buzz-ins and those kinds of things. There may be some inconvenience with that, and I think with our facilities, I'd rather be inconvenienced and be on the safe side, and maybe kids have to sit in a little bit larger classes if we have to make some investments in security, but at least they're safe in larger classes rather than not safe in class sizes that are smaller. So I think the board will have some tough decisions to make as we look at the upcoming future. I will be at the planning session this month, next week. I will be bringing the sheriff's deputies in from Fairfield County, one of the chiefs, to talk to you about exactly what a school resource officer does, what that contract proposal would look like, and then I hope to bring that back to you sometime in the April agenda for the following school year. But until then, we will use a school special duty officer. The other thing is all the door barricades have been completely installed in all of our buildings, so that is completed. We've had this for a while. I don't want people to think that that was a purchase I had made, but it was time that we got them installed as soon as possible. So we got that done.
And the question of barricades came up 4 or 5 years ago when Southwest Licking bought them, and then were basically told they couldn't put them up.
Well, that was part of the
Right,
issue.
so
We bought those over a year ago, but the fire department, the state fire marshal was trying to get some clarification to their local departments on whether we could really use those or not. And so that was an issue. We were finally given the green light, but we got it installed very quickly. I do want to point out, and it's not an opportunity to use this for political reasons, but it's important that people understand when we talk about decisions we have to make, that when we do improvements to security or our facilities, capital projects, ongoing maintenance, again, we pull all of our money out of our general fund because we don't have any permanent improvement money specifically allocated for those types of things. This bond issue, the ballot issue in May, includes a bond issue to build a new school, and it also includes permanent improvement money, which would generate $446,000 a year. That money specifically, by law, can be used for security improvements, just like these doors I'm talking about, buzz-in features, card access, putting solid doors where there's all glass doors right now. Those are all things that we would have money to do where we don't have to always nickel and dime from the general fund and impact programs and services, curriculum programs to our students and textbooks and those types of things, that we can specifically have money that we can allocate for security improvements. So I think it's important that people understand this and realize this. It's not an excessive amount. Again, it's $446,000 a year. Just to give you an idea, if we put this roof on the first floor of the high school, we're going to spend half of that just on a roof. So,
And we have to have that building, whether we
Yeah.
put a levy up sometime in the future for a new high school,
Yeah.
regardless.
Securing the modular doors, putting better modular doors on, putting card swipes on there, that would all be covered under.
So how well would card swipe? I had a person, when I gave blood on Saturday, it was kind of funny. I walked in and he said, oh, we have a celebrity here. I thought, I did one of these. Anyway, it was just me. And anyway, he mentioned before he left about the card swipe. So how effective do you think that would be with these modules?
I think it would be a dramatic improvement, compared to what we have right now. Again, we have 6 classrooms for second graders, just for second grade. That's not the music and art and reading and technology. But we have our second grade, 161 or 2 students in modulars. 4 of those classrooms have water and sewer to them. They have restrooms in them. But that means there's 2 second grade classrooms where the kids have to cross over outside to get into the other modulars to use the restroom. Being able to enclose this area in between the modulars and having access would keep that cross entrance secure. And we're talking with our maintenance supervisor about that, and we're getting some prices to bring to the board.
And even when we pass it in May, they're still gonna be, several years down the road before.
True, but yeah, I mean, there might be, 2 to 3 years that we're still in these facilities, but as Travis has mentioned, and Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, even if we pass this in May, we can borrow against some of that
Yeah,
permanent improvement
okay.
money to make improvements this summer too. So that's it on safety. I'll answer some questions after this if you have any. Final thing I wanted to draw to your attention, the middle school musical is going on this week. Students in grades 3 through 8 participate in that. It's the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee that they're presenting on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. If you get an opportunity, you have some time, it'd be great to stop by. It's really neat to see the talent of our middle school students, but that'll be taking place.
We have a sponsorship in that, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Pay $100 and put that in for us for the school.
Well, that's right.
Yeah. So, and again, thank you for that, but, that would be it under the superintendent's report. Are there any questions specifically you said?
I was just wondering about, I was just wondering about how the visual is going, actually.
Visual is good.
I heard you did a
Those-
nice job keeping the young lady that was driving the Channel 4.
Yeah, the students, those, I just want to be clear, those are student-led, those visuals are student-led, when something like this happens, the staff obviously was there to support them, but that, the students did a nice job with that, the families were very appreciative. The media can really be over the top with this stuff, and we had to remind them where we told them that they could be and where they couldn't be. But again, the vigil was very nice. The family, I think it helps them in the healing process. It's been a long week. I will be meeting with the family later this week, and Mr. Conrad and Mr. Galkey, they are looking at setting up a scholarship fund in her memory that we'll be bringing to the board. Travis will bring a fund account to be approved for, I think, next month in April, right, Travis?
Yep.
So we'll be setting that up eventually. But we're going to meet with the family on Thursday.
So do you think administration will be enough people, I'm gonna ask, if there is a sizable walkout of the high school?
Yeah, any teacher that is not in class, which you'll have 3 to 4 or 5 teachers, per period that have a planning period, can certainly help out too. Mr. Conrad has not had a bunch of students come to him at this point. I don't want to jinx him, but, I think with him and, the staff, the 3 or 4 teachers that need to be involved, that would be more than enough to supervise a group and try to keep them safe, get them back in the go as quickly as possible, something does happen. But, again, we just haven't really heard anything, but we want to be prepared for it, and we've met last week.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else have a question or comment?
No, I just add, thank you for your leadership, both of you and your staff. Mr. Conrad over there, I was very impressed with the way you handled yourself, and I couldn't thank you enough for the way you guys handled everything over there, so thank you.
All right, moving on, 10B, students and programs. Number 1, approve an out-of-state trip for the Chamber Singers to perform in New York City, November 14th, 2018 to November 18th, 2018. I think they missed a couple days of work with this, their school. This is something they do every couple of years as well. We will eventually have an itinerary and all the certificates of liability and the travel plans that we bring back to you at a later date time, I'm sorry, I think we might have already had it. It might be in your package.
Should be one in the back.
Yeah, I think it's in your package, and they'd already submitted it.
But the second one isn't.
Right, yes, and that's,
Yeah.
and then the second one, approve an out-of-state trip for the varsity and junior varsity girls basketball teams to play in Orlando, Florida, December 26, 2018 through December 30th, 2018. There is, initially, there's some upfront costs. There will be some fundraisers and other events that take place to really knock that down. Mr. Little has kind of pulled the parents in the program, and everybody was supportive in the junior varsity and varsity program, at least for next year, the group that he knows he will have back. I can say that these trips are, they have been beneficial to help bring kids together. When I was at another school district south of here, the varsity boys team went down to this tournament in at Walt Disney World, basically at the ESPN One World of Sports, and they get to visit the theme parks, and they are guaranteed 3 games. I think we're actually only going to play 2, but they obviously it's a good thing for the families and for the kids. Yeah, and they get good competition down there too. So something they haven't done in the past, but some of our other teams take trips out of state. So just wanted to bring those two trips to you.
Any discussion on B1 and 2? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion? Thank you. Second. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Millis?
Yes.
All right, 10C, personnel employment, number 1, approve substitute list number 8 for March 2018 as submitted by the Fairfield County EOC. Number 2, approve the voluntary transfer of Mariah Storts from high school cook to 6 hours per day head cook at the intermediate school on a continuing contract at step 6 for the 2017-18 school year, effective February 13, 2018, pending acceptance of agenda item 10F2. Number 3, approve the following requests for unpaid leave dock days. A would be 1 day for Melissa Diamond, March 28th, 2018, and B would be 2 days for Amy Randalls on March 22nd and 23rd, 2018. Number 4 is approve the FMLA leave request of Pamela Engbert, 7th grade science teacher, effective August 13th, 2018 through approximately September 19th, 2018. Number 5, approve the employment of William Moore as a substitute custodian for the 17-18 school year and summer custodian. Number 6, approve the following as van drivers for the 17-18 school year pending receipt of all verifications and completions of all requirements as presented A through C. Number 7, approve the academic supplemental contracts of D. Saunders as a pianist for the musical at Group H with 0 years of experience. Number 8, approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 17-18 school year as presented A through B. And for the, approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 18-19 school year as presented C through K. Number 9, approve the following athletic department volunteers for the 17-18 school year pending timely receipt of all verifications and background checks. That would be Leanne Pennant for high school softball. And number 10, approve the following volunteers for the 17-18 school year pending successful background check results. And that would be your Group A volunteers with background checks on file. And
I have one question, and I don't have a doubt that this person can do it. I was just curious as to, with the JV softball, there was nobody in the staff that had any experience that applied?
not that I'm aware of. And he did step up and as a staff member. Yeah, he's obviously interested, and the varsity coach is okay with that as well.
And by state law, in case you didn't know, we have to take staff first before we go to somebody in the community. Okay, any discussion on these items? Does anyone like to make a motion? I'll second this one myself. Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Millis?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Nothing under D or E, and F would be the personnel resignations and retirements. Accept the resignation of Cynthia Kohler, Title I teacher at the intermediate school effective May 25th, 2018. And F2 would be accept the resignation of Bonnie Kaiser, head cook at the intermediate school effective February 13th, 2018. Would like to acknowledge the service to our school district for both of these employees. They were previously retired, rehired, but they have given many years to the school district, and we appreciate their service.
4 years. 4 years.
Yeah.
Joe's just a little bit older, I believe. And so is my daughter. Okay, any discussion on these items? Seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
So,
Okay, that was Joe. Is it the second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Abbott?
yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes. New business. Any new business that should come before the board? I have my questions answered about safety, et cetera, I believe, so I don't believe I have any myself. Anyone else? Okay, see, then I guess we'll go to 12. Board reports and information. Anybody have anything on facility management? I do not. No. Personnel, labor, and management? No. OSBA representative? I did go to the meeting last Wednesday, and we actually had a meal that wasn't rubber turkey, which was amazing. Because usually this thing, that's what you do. Remember a guy used to do a late show when I was a kid in college, and say, those of you want to see the chickie a little longer, you have a rubber turkey. He waited for every Saturday night. Anyway, so we didn't have that. It was a worthwhile meeting. They talked about it was a guy from the 12. Besides Stephanie getting her award. Okay, policy, we had a meeting, what, a month ago?
Yeah, we'll have another one coming up here in May, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, there's a couple policies that I'll bring to you that won't be on that EDP. So,
Okay. Safety, health, and wellness, while our nurse isn't here. I teased her, you know, she's not supposed to be.
I tell you what, there's something, make sure when you walk out of this building, and you wash your hands.
He said they were.
Mrs. Kern can tell you.
We had 14
We had
kids out today.
9 teachers out today,
9, yeah.
21 staff members in the district.
Wow.
We had 4 people uncovered over here and Mr. Rozeski. The flu has not left us yet.
Nice.
There are fevers going on.
No, my oldest granddaughter had it. She's pretty healthy. She was,
Yeah.
Okay, number 6, finance, Mr. Bratton, Mr. Johnson. You haven't found any extra money for the school district? Too bad, so sad. Okay, B, we have the athletic booster meeting, which happened, the one last month I attended, as did the superintendent talk about, I think Rod was there for a while also. What happened after you folks left, it wasn't that much after, that's because the meeting didn't last that long. But they did talk about, which kind of surprised me, the boosters did talk about coming to an end of doing the fair booth, because they're saying it takes so much time trying to find the volunteers, trying to jump through the hoops, because now they have to buy pies and stuff like that, which was better, that type of thing. So they're looking at not doing that, by the way, just kind of a surprise, I thought.
Before they do that, would they think about talking to someone else about it, using boosters?
Well, I don't know about that.
It's a chore, because I helped set up last year.
I did all
Because of all the years of the grease, and it is pretty, it's nasty, but I think they make a lot of money. I don't know why,
Well,
like you said.
I think they said they made 4,000, so maybe as much as you might. And there's groups waiting for the spot. That's the other thing too. Can we keep it in Bloom Carroll? I don't know. I mean, that would be nice when people with the music.
It would be, and I've tried to talk to some people, but you guys know young families with kids in the athletic program in middle school. It would be great. We have great athletic boosters, but all their kids have aged out of sports, and they're just helping us out. But if you know people that are go-getters that would like to get involved, definitely invite them into the boosters meetings, and it would be good. It's just hard to get volunteers for things.
Well, that was the problem, they said that at the meetings, and Chad's brought that up, where he's like, hey, might not be around here in a couple of years, because no one's stepping up.
Right.
Yeah.
You put the time and energy into it.
Yeah, Greg Schaefer, Mark Williams, Barkley, phenomenal people, but their kids are all basically out
I
of
did when my
athletics.
kids were younger, like, hey, it's time to pass the baton.
Yeah.
Right, well, you want to smell like a French fry. Okay, so that takes care of that one. Music boosters, 313. Oftentimes we had these in the past, it was considered, certain times it was a long date. 321 for the Board of Education planning session, which I will attend, but it is my wedding anniversary. So, high school PTO, it's about year number 500. It's year number 48 though.
Wow.
48.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was only 12 when I got married. Before each project that went completely, no, just kidding. That's what I told you. 329, no school, spring break. 330, Good Friday. 4-2, no school, parent teacher comp day. 4-3, MS, middle school PTO. And we have the Board of Education regular meeting on 4-9. Any questions about any of those? I think they were a little surprised to see, I mean, the superintendent just off the cuff gave his spiel. I thought I'd stick around till the meeting was over, like, okay, they were there another 20 minutes after we left.
Yeah, no, I have been able to get out to, several groups,
You could have had somebody with you in the one meeting, but they went to the wrong civic center in Carroll. I went to the one down in the firehouse. I
it's,
pulled in there twice.
I will say this, we've got a lot of work to do. Things have been well received by all ages, all populations. They're starting to feel like they're getting information, getting informed about where we are as a district. So hopefully, when things go live here in late March, we can continue to get that positive message and still be clear about our needs, and that we're trying to present a pretty practical plan that addresses our bare minimum need.
Well,
right
with all
now.
the modulars we have.
Yeah.
And there's a meeting tomorrow night at the high school cafeteria.
Yeah, that's for the chair of the committee organization.
Okay. And number 13, adjourn or recess. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can I have a motion? So moved. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes, didn't even make it out.